Hi guys, welcome back. Today we are going to learn about factors, multiples and primes. We've got 4 success criteria, and the first one is to explain what factors and multiples are. So a multiple is a number in a numbers times tables. So for example, multiples of 3 would be 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, etc. A factor is a number that fits into another number without a remainder. So a factor of 12 would be 4, because 4 goes into 12 3 times exactly. Factor pairs of a number are 2 whole numbers that multiply together to make that number. So for example, a factor pair of 15 would be 3 and 5, because 3 times 5 is 15. So now we've completed success criteria 1, we're going to move on to number 2, and this is to find factors and multiples of numbers. So we want to list the first 5 multiples of 8. So this is the first 5 numbers in the 8 times table. So they would be 8, 16, 24, 32 and 40. Here's a question for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to see what you should have done, press play. Here's your answer. So the first 5 multiples of 7 are 7, 14, 21, 28 and 35. Here are some questions for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to mark your work, press play. Here are your answers. There's your green answers. There's your amber answers. And there's your red answers. This time we want to list all the factors of 12. So we always start with 1 and think about what do we times 1 by to make 12. Well, we times it by 12. Then we move on to 2, and 2 times 6 is 12. So 2 and 6 are both factors of 12. Then we do 3 and 4. So there are factors of 12. 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 and 12. This time we want to list the factors of 21. So we start with 1 and 21. 2 isn't a factor of 21 because it doesn't go into 21. 3 and 7 because 3 times 7 is 21. 4 isn't a factor of 21 because 4 doesn't go into 21. 5 is not a factor of 21. 6 is not a factor of 21. 7 is a factor of 21, but we've already got 7, so we can stop. So the factors of 21 are 1, 3, 7 and 21. Here's a question for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to see what you should have done, press play. So the factors of 24 are 1 and 24, 2 and 12, 3 and 8, 4 and 6. Then we'd try 5, but 5 isn't a factor of 24. Then we'd try 6, but we've already got 6, so that's where we can stop. So the factors of 24 are 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 12 and 24. Here are some questions for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to mark your work, press play. Here are your answers. So there's your green answers, there's your amber answers, and there's your red answers. So you need to be able to alternate between finding factors and finding multiples without confusing the two. So try this next exercise to practice. So have a go at these questions yourself, pause the video, and when you're ready to mark your work, press play. Here are your answers. So there's your green answers, there's your amber answers, there's your red answers, and there's your purple answers. The greens made knife, the ambers made cooker, the reds made kettle, and the purples made fridge. So now we've completed success criteria 2. So now we're going to move on to number 3, and this is to find the highest common factor and the lowest common multiple of two numbers. So HCF stands for highest common factor, and the highest common factor is the biggest number that is a factor of two numbers. So for example, the highest common factor of 8 and 12 is 4, because 4 is the biggest number that goes into both 8 and 12. So here we want to find the highest common factor of 12 and 15. So we start by writing out the factors of 12, which would be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, and 3 and 4. The factors of 15 would be 1 and 15, 3 and 5. So we have a look for the common factors, which would be 1 and 3, because they're factors of both numbers, but we want the highest common factor, so we want the biggest number that's in both lists, which would be 3. So the highest common factor of 12 and 15 is 3. Here's one for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to see what you should have done, press play. So we start by writing out the factors of 21 and the factors of 35. And we see what is the biggest number that's in both lists, and it's 7. So the highest common factor of 21 and 35 is 7. LCM stands for lowest common multiple, and the lowest common multiple is the smallest number that is a multiple of both numbers. So for example, the the lowest common multiple of 5 and 6 is 30, because 30 is the smallest number that's a multiple of both 5 and 6. Here we want to find the lowest common multiple of 12 and 8. So we write out the multiples of 12, and we write out the multiples of 8, and we can stop here because we've reached the number that's in both lists. So the lowest common multiple of 12 and 8 is 24. Here's a question for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to see what you should have done, press play. So here we want to find the lowest common multiple of 15 and 9. So we write out the multiples of 15, and we write out the multiples of 9, and we see what is the smallest number that's in both lists. And the answer is 45. So the lowest common multiple of 15 and 9 is 45. Sometimes you might need to write out more than the first 5 multiples, but you just keep going until you get a number that's in both lists. Here are some questions for you to have a go at. Pause the video, and when you're ready to mark your work, press play. Here are your answers. So there's your green answers, there's your amber answers, and there's your red answers. And now we've completed success criteria 3. So now we're going to move on to number 4, and this is to recognise prime numbers. So a prime number has only 2 factors, the number 1 and the number itself. So it's good to be able to recognise the prime numbers between 1 and 100, and we can calculate the prime numbers using 100 square. So any multiple of 2 must have 2 as a factor. So although the number 2 is a prime number, any multiple of 2 is not. So we can get rid of any multiples of 2 because they're not prime numbers. We can do the same for any multiples of 3. So we can get rid of any multiples of 3. Now we don't need to get rid of the multiples of 4 because any number that's a multiple of 4 is also a multiple of 2, and we've already gotten rid of the multiples of 2. So next we get rid of any multiples of 5. We don't need to get rid of any multiples of 6 because any multiples of 6 are also multiples of 3 and 2, which we've already gotten rid of. We can get rid of any multiples of 7. We don't need to get rid of any multiples of 8 because any multiple of 8 is a multiple of 2, which we've already gotten rid of. And we don't need to get rid of any multiples of 9, as any multiple of 9 is a multiple of 3, and we've already gotten rid of the multiples of 3. 1 is never a prime number because a prime number needs to have 2 factors, and the number 1 only has 1 factor, the number 1. So 1 is not a prime number. So any number that's not highlighted is a prime number between 1 and 100. Here are some questions for you to have a go at. pause the video, and when you're ready to mark your work, press play. Here are your answers. So there's your green answers. There's your amber answers. And there's your red answers. So now we've completed success criteria 4. So now that we've completed the last objective, it's time to end the video. Hope you enjoyed it and hope you found it useful. Make sure to like and subscribe, and be sure to check out the videos on the rest of the channel. I'll see you next time. See ya.